she joining within minute.
सर शी इज हैविंग टाइम ना मैडम का 3:45 के आसपास शुरू होगा
Hello.
यस सर यू आर ऑडिबल
Sir, Arshia ma'am also joined.
ओके इज माय स्क्रीन विजिबल
Yes.
सो शुड वी गो ahead बालाकृष्णन सर
Yes, sir. Yes.
okay thank you so much sir so dear all participants good afternoon to everyone myself Dr. Ganesh Dakle president NPT and organizing secretary of online GCP workshop working as professor HOD department of pharmacology AIMS Nagpur respected chairman of the workshop Dr. Balakrishnan sir from AIMS Bhopal who was also a good academician general secretary of the NPT Dr. Praveen Sharma sir national coordinator Dr. Kamal sir all executive committee members and all dear participants first of all let me thank to our association for giving me the opportunity to serve as organizing secretary for this national online GCP workshop. As all of you know that GCP is an international ethical and scientific quality standard for the design, conduct and recording of clinical trials. All investigators as well as staff who are involved in the conduct of any clinical trials are required to complete the training in good clinical practice and refresh this training regularly to update the knowledge. This is even more pertinent given the many changes and amendments in the clinical trial and new drug approval rules and regulation in India in recent years. So in this workshop, we are having total 8 topics, starting from overview of Indian GCP to 7 features of NDCT 2019. And I hope that this would be a great experience for all of our dear participants during this 1 month workshop. Now I request organizing chairperson of the workshop, Dr. Balakrishnan sir, to address the gathering. Over to Dr. Balakrishnan sir.
Thank you, Dr. Ganesh. And it's my privilege to be part of this GCP workshop 2026. This workshop, a series of workshops has been organized by Dr. Ganesh Dakle over the past few years. And he's done it wonderfully. And I think in many of these years, the slots are fully booked well in advance. So this is a wonderful platform with a lot of experienced faculty who are teaching you GCP, good clinical practice. And this assumes importance in the light of the fact that the International Conference on Harmonization has taken out the GCP E6 R3 revised edition 3. Now, there are a lot of revisions between R2 and R3. This R3 was released for public this one in January 2025, and I think this there'll be a lot of adaptation to the R3 of ICH E6, which touches upon good clinical practice. Now, there is also a lot of appendix, including protocol development, the rules and regulations of a sponsor, investigator, the contract research organization. The name of the contract research organization has been changed to service provider. So a lot of these changes, such changes, subject is now called a trial participant. So a lot of these changes have occurred, and it is very important that we all keep updated on these aspects of good clinical practice. And I also thank the National Association of Pharmacology and Therapeutics for allowing me to chair this session on the GCP 2026. Wish you all a very happy learning. And I do hope that you go away with a wealth of knowledge regarding GCP and conduct of a clinical trial in a scientific way after you finish the sessions on GCP. Best of luck, my dear participants and colleagues. And thank you, Dr. Ganesh.
Thank you, Balakrishnan sir, for your valuable guidance and for accepting our invitation to act as an organizing chairperson for this national.
Ganesh sir, kindly unmute.
Ganesh, you are not audible. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
It's not
Ganesh sir,
audible.
please unmute yourself. Ganesh sir.
Ganesh
That
sir,
is-
audio is not audible.
Now,
Audio is not,
Now you are audible, sir.
there is sir, audio. Just a minute, sir.
Sir, should I speak?
Just a minute, sir. Just a minute. Now, whether it is audible?
Yes, sir. It is audible now.
Okay.
sir, it's not audible.
Video, we are not able to hear, sir.
Sir, we are not able to hear.
Okay.
You need to put audio from the beginning, or you can take the help of Shilpa.
Okay.
Sir,
Shilpa,
while
please.
sharing-
Yes.
Yeah. Sir, while sharing the screen, click on that share audio also, sir.
Sir, share audio.
So you need to share again, Dakle sir.
You need to share it again.
Okay.
There is a icon share audio also. You need to click that.
ठीक है.
stakeholders to
Now is it audible?
It was bit audible, but again, voice gone.
It gives me a great pleasure
Audible now.
patron of this online GCP workshop of national importance. The organizing chairperson of the workshop, Dr. Balakrishnan from AIIMS Bhopal, General Secretary of NPT, Dr. Praveen Sharma, National Coordinator, Dr. C.M. Kamal, and Organizing Secretary, Dr. Ganesh Dakle. Now, recently ICMR and DCGR have developed new guidelines for the conduct of biomedical research after long deliberations with experts and stakeholders to prepare the document in line with national and international guidelines. And it is therefore essential that all stakeholders are aware of these guidelines, which will definitely help to improve biomedical research in India. This course is suitable for individuals both from industry and academia who are involved in clinical trials and new drug development. I am happy that NPT is organizing this national level online GCP workshop in this month. This workshop is being organized in association with AIIMS Nagpur. During this workshop, renowned researchers are going to give deliberations and training on important topics in clinical research. Hence, I look forward to this workshop and hope that it will help to achieve high quality conduct of ethical research by imparting better protection to research participants while obtaining ethical data during clinical study. I wish all the best for this national workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your address to the participants. Now I request our General Secretary, Dr. Praveen Sharma, sir, to guide the participants. Over to Dr. Praveen Sharma, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
So it is really a respected chairman, sir, Dr. Balakrishnan, sir, our organizing secretary of this good clinical practice workshop, Dr. Ganesh Dakle, sir, also our president of National Association of Pharmacology and Therapeutics, and our national coordinator, respected national coordinator, Dr. C.M. Kamal, sir, my respected executive members of our association, respected colleagues, and my dear students. It is really a proud moment for me to see how this small initiative it developed itself into the most impactful exercise of this association. This good clinical practice workshop, this is the 5th edition. We are organizing in collaboration with the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Nagpur. And it is really heartening to see how it has developed the research integrity, the atmosphere of ethical research, international standards in clinical research. This is really heartening to see how all these things has been transformed by this one platform, that is good clinical practice. And for this, I give full credit to Dr. Ganesh Dakle, sir, who is not only our president, but also organizing secretary right from the beginning of this workshop. And his vision, his dedication, his hard work, this has developed this into a platform, most credible platform of good clinical practice. I feel that the success of this platform we should not see by the number of participants, though they are overwhelming. You see, they are increasing, but also from the change in attitude of our young scientists, our PG students, our junior residents, how they have started thinking about ethical research, about uh, importance of research. So I congratulate all the organizers and all the participants, and Dr. Ganesh Dakle, sir, and Dr. C.M. Kamal, sir, who's been a force right from the beginning. Thank you very much, sir, and I wish you all the best. I know this time also this would be a very successful experience for all the participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharma, sir, for your valuable guidance to the participants. Now our NPT coordinator Dr. Kamal sir is always ready with the innovative ideas and doing the association work 24 by 7. All of you know that for the success of the NPT. Thank you sir for your hard work. Now I request you sir to release the video of the workshop. Over to Dr. Kamal sir.
Thank you, sir. I am starting the video.
Thank you, Dr. Kamal sir, for preparing this nice video of NPT. Today we are having two sessions. First is on overview of Indian GCP, clinical trial protocol, IB, and essential documents. And second is on responsibilities of investigators, sponsor, and monitors. The first session will be moderated by Dr. China Sarkar, Madam. Madam is presently working as Senior Professor of Pharmacology and Vigilance Officer at NEI GRI HMS Shillong, Meghalaya. Madam has published over 50 research articles in reputed national and international journals. Madam also worked as member of Institute Ethics Committee, International Clinical Epidemiology Network, Hospital Pharmacy Committee, as well as Institute Antibiotic Policy. Currently, Madam is also coordinator of Intent ICMR program, Advanced Center for Clinical Trial at Northeast Zone. And Madam is also the life member of IPS, APPI, NPT, ACPI, and Society for Pharmacovigilance India. Welcome, Dr. Sarkar, Madam. The second session will be moderated by Dr. Pramod Kumar Maji, sir, who is presently working as additional professor and head of the Department of Pharmacology at AIMS, Patna. Sir is also a lead trainer and nodal officer, Mission Karmayogi at AIMS Patna, as well as faculty in charge of recruitment cell. Sir also is acting as a sub-dean, undergraduate academic, coordinator as well as coordinator of AMC, MD, and he is also a coordinator of the second professional MBBS curriculum. Sir is also member secretary of Institute Animal Ethics Committee, National Executive of Council member, editor-in-chief of IJCRR and associate editor of Trials. Sir has also published nearly 37 research papers in peer-reviewed journal. I also welcome Dr. Pramod sir. Now I request Dr. China Sarkar Madam to introduce our today's first speaker, Dr. Ashok Shinoy sir. Sir session will be for 30 minutes followed by question answer session for 10 minutes. Participant can put their questions in the chat box and moderator will take it once the session is over. Over to China Sarkar Madam for introduction of Ashok Shenoy, sir. Over to China Sarkar Madam. Madam, are you there? Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah. I
Madam
think
is
that is
there?
okay. So shall I start, sir? Shall I start? I think the slides are seen.
China Sarkar Madam is there or
Oh,
not?
can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
yes,
Madam.
ma'am.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Dr. Ashok Shenoy as the speaker on good clinical practice today. As we all know, clinical research plays a great role in the advancement of medical science and patient care improvement. GCP ensures that clinical trials are conducted with integrity, the participant rights and the safety are protected, and the data generated is accurate, reliable, and credible. We feel honored to have Dr. Ashok Shenoy today with us. He is Professor of Pharmacology, Kasturba Medical College, Mangalore. He has published over 60 research articles in indexed national and international journals. He is a member of various ethics committee, FARSI and ACCRI, ISCR. He has 25 years of experience in clinical research and has participated in over 80 global multicentric clinical trials as a principal investigator and co-PI. His rich and deep expertise in clinical research would undoubtedly help us not just the principles of GCP, but also their application in day-to-day clinical trial practice. Now, therefore, I invite Dr. Ashok Shenoy to deliver his talk entitled Overview of Good Clinical Practice, Clinical Trial Protocol, Investigator Brochure, and Essential Documents. Dr. Ashok, please.
Thank you, madam, for that wonderful introduction. I hope my slides are visible.
Yes.
Yes.
Full
Make it
screen
full
also.
screen. Yes, yes. Not full screen.
Yeah. At the outset, I want to thank Dr. Ganesh Dakle and Dr. CM Kamal and NPT for giving me an opportunity to interact with all of you. Disclaimer. What is good clinical practice? Even though the term good clinical practice looks like it is something to do with the clinical practice, it is mostly to do with the research. It is a standard for the planning, initiating, performing, recording, oversight, evaluation, analysis, and reporting of clinical trials that provides assurance that the data and the reported results are reliable and that the right, safety, and well-being of the trial participants are protected. In R2, there was the term subject. Now it is replaced by participants, which is a better term. Actually, the correct terminology should have been good clinical research practice, but conventionally the term good clinical practice is followed. Hence, it is good clinical practice or GCP. Many bodies have put forward guidelines for good clinical practice. ICH GCP, I would say, mother of all GCPs. The first guideline came in 1996. It was revised 20 years later with the 13 principles. Then last year in January, the R3 came out. And Indian GCP guidelines are quite old, actually, 2001. In 2024, the draft was published for public opinion. However, the same is not gazetted. Let us hope this year it will be gazetted. WHO also has published GCP guidelines, once again 21 years old now, with the 14 principles. And if you are doing research in Ayush area, Ayurveda, Siddha and Unani products, you can do, but there is a separate GCP for that. It's called ASU GCP. It was published in 2013. Why R3? What led to the updation of from R2 to R3? What happened was, in February 2016, the stakeholders expressed concern to ICH that the ICH E6 guidelines failed to recognize variations in the level of risk of participants in different types of trials and fails to allow flexibility in managing the risk. This means let us consider two types of trials. One is type 2 diabetes, oral medication, outpatient trial. Another is gram-negative sepsis, ICU trial, and the IP is a biological. You can't put these two in the same balance. Outpatient, oral medication, the risk is definitely lesser than an inpatient ICU gram-negative sepsis, which has multiple risks. The disease itself has a risk. Biological, that itself has a risk. Hence, one-size-fits-all approach is not suitable for different types of trials. And who does clinical trials? It is academicians like me and you. So academic stakeholders were not involved in the ICH processes. Further, okay, I'll give you a clinical scenario. I'll read it for you. A decentralized phase 2 trial is evaluating a novel treatment for hereditary spastic paraplegia, a rare neurodegenerative disorder. A participant, Mr. Ravi, from a remote village in Karnataka, is unable to travel due to mobility issues. To facilitate his participation, study team uses an interactive e-consent platform with the multimedia content and video consultations, allowing him to provide informed consent remotely. Post-randomization, IP shipped directly to his home with a temperature locked packaging. Mr. Ravi uses a wearable device to monitor gait and activity, transmitting data securely to central trial database. Scheduled telehealth visits are conducted monthly to assess safety and efficacy endpoints, that is remote monitoring and data collection. Whatever you're seeing in blue, there was no provision for this in R2. All these are technological advancements that happened which required updation of these guidelines. So R2 was outdated and couldn't address the modern trial realities. The new clinical trial designs like digital, decentralized, pragmatic trials, it needed formal guidance. It required more flexible and risk proportionate oversight. There was necessity for e-consent, direct IP delivery to the participant. All of us have experienced this during our last pandemic, COVID-19. With the globalization of the trials, multi-regional oversight, cross-border compliance had to be met with, and most importantly, digital documentation and technological innovation had to be improved. So there was no provision for these things. I won't say no provision, but there was a less provision for these things in R2. So updation was required. Scope of R3 applies to interventional clinical trials of IP that are intended to be submitted to regulatory authorities. So you might ask me, okay, what about our theses? What about our academic research? Nevertheless, other interventional clinical trials of IP that are not intended to support marketing authorization applications in accordance with the local regulatory requirements. So for everything clinical research, you require GCP training. Without GCP training, you shall not involve yourself in clinical research. The principles are applicable across clinical trial types and settings and remain relevant as technological and methodological advances occur. There are annexes. Annex 1 deals with interventional clinical trials of IP, and Annex 2 is still in the production stage. It has not crossed step 4. Probably this year it will be published. It deals with the non-traditional interventional trials. Additional annexes may be developed. This is a new one, hardly 1 year, 2 months. Additional annexes may be developed according to the requirements. This is the ICH website. Dear postgraduates and budding researchers, please go through this website whenever you have time. This gives all the details regarding the ICH documents. Now in my title, it was E6R3. For some of you who are not exposed to this much, let me decode what is this E6. There are 4 major categories and ICH topic codes: quality, safety, efficacy, and multidisciplinary, abbreviated as Q, S, E, and M respectively. If something to do with the quality, then it is quality topic code. For example, good manufacturing practice. It is the 7th guideline. It will be called as Q7. Safety topic code has got 13 guidelines. For example, pharmacology studies, S7 is the 7th guideline. So S7, there are 2 sections, S7A and S7B. Under efficacy topic code, the 6th guideline talks about good clinical practice. Hence, we call it E6. I have highlighted E3, E8, and E9 also because the current R3 is a good amalgamation of E3, that's the clinical study reports, E8, general considerations for clinical trials, and E9, statistical principles for clinical trials. Dear postgraduates, please please refer these guidelines. At least flip through this whenever you have time. It will give you a good insight of what clinical trial and what clinical research is. Efficacy topic code, there are 23 guidelines, and multidisciplinary, there are 18 guidelines. ICH is an ocean of guidelines. Everything may not be required for you. What is required for you? Probably IVC is only GCP that you should be well versed with. This is the table of contents of ICH GCP R3. It starts from introduction, then it talks about principles, then under annexure 1, it talks about IRB IEC, investigator, sponsor, a new annexure, that is the new section, that is data governance, then annexure 2, yet to be out, then glossary and appendices. As of now, there are 3 appendices, A, B, C. A, investigator's brochure, B, clinical trial protocol, and C, essential records. We will see the glimpse of all these things today. Now there are 11 principles. R2 had 13 principles. Many of them are clubbed. And whatever you're seeing in blue, P1 to P5 and P11, they are the old ones. P6 to P10, these 5 principles are new. So let us briefly and check what is the highlights of these principles. Clinical trials should be conducted in accordance with the ethical principles that has their origin in the Declaration of Helsinki and that are consistent with the GCP and applicable regulatory requirements. What are these applicable regulatory requirements? You can do 2 types of research. One is clinical trials and the second is biomedical and health research. Biomedical and health research comprises of what we do in academics, UG research, PG research, faculty research, academic clinical trials. If you are doing clinical trials, that is sponsored clinical trials for a pharmaceutical company, then you have to follow New Drugs and Clinical Trial Rules 2019. If you are doing biomedical and health research, then you have to follow ICMR guidelines. So this is the applicable requirement for India. The right, safety, and well-being of the participants are the most important consideration and should prevail over interests of science and society. Please note that. Even interests of the science and society also take a back seat compared to right, safety, and well-being. RSW of the participants is of utmost importance. Safety of the participant should be reviewed periodically as new safety info becomes available. Now, when you do a trial, initially probably you think the risk is not that high. As the trial progresses, you realize that adverse effects are high and the risk is also increasing. Now, this has to be conveyed to the existing participants and they have to be asked whether you'd like to continue participation. This is called reconsenting and this is a must as per R3. If they are willing to continue, then only they should be continued in the clinical trial. Before a trial is initiated, foreseeable risk and inconveniences should be weighed against the anticipated benefit for the individual trial subject and society. A trial should be initiated and continued only if the anticipated benefits justify the risks. This is what you should do, and this is what ethics committee also does. Risk-benefit analysis. If the risk is high, benefit is low, ethics committee may ask you to modify your protocol. Both investigator and ethics committee should aim at risk minimization and benefit maximization. A qualified physician or when appropriate, a qualified dentist in accordance with the local regulatory requirements should have overall responsibility for trial-related medical care. So this is for the entire globe. For India, who is a qualified physician? In India, to be a PI, you have to be a postgraduate. MBBS and BDS degree holders cannot become the PI and they can neither become members of ethics committee. And if they are working in a medical college, that college should be recognized by the current NMC and your degree also should be recognized by the NMC. This is the definition of a qualified physician in India. Confidentiality of the information that could identify the participant should be protected in accordance with the applicable privacy and data protection requirements. Dear participants, confidentiality and privacy are given a lot of importance in R3. So this is given utmost importance. You have to respect somebody's privacy and confidentiality. The next principle talks about informed consent. There is a separate session on informed consent, so I will not talk about it now. Details will be given in that session. But the principle 2 talks about informed consent, how it has to be taken, etc. Principle 3 talks about IRB IEC review. That is, clinical trial should be subject to an independent review by an ethics committee. and a trial should always be conducted in compliance with the protocol that is received prior IRB IEC approval. That means without ethics committee approval, you shall not indulge in any clinical research, including case report and case series. Many of you think case report and case series, ethics committee permission is not required. Ethics committee approval is required for even case report and case series. Probably if you're doing systematic review and meta-analysis, ethics committee approval is not required, provided you are registered under the appropriate bodies. Periodic review of the trial by the ethics committee should also be conducted in accordance with applicable regulatory requirements. This means the ethics committee has to go to the site and check what is happening, everything is in place. So this monitoring also has to be done. Investigators brochure also has to be updated regularly. Clinical trials should be scientifically sound for their intended purpose and based on robust and current scientific knowledge and approaches. Bad science is bad ethics. Many of you may be thinking ethics committee, they should look into ethical matters. If it is cleared by a scientific committee, you don't have to be worrying about the scientific aspects. This is incorrect. Ethics committee can look into the scientific aspects very well. It has scientific members who will do this job. Clinical trials should be designed and conducted by qualified individuals. So who are these qualified individuals? I told you in India. So all are required in a clinical trial. It is a multidisciplinary exercise and it is a teamwork wherein physicians, scientists, ethicists, technology experts, trial coordinators, monitors, auditors, statisticians, everybody has got a role in the conduct of a clinical trial. And the qualification is important. This is a new principle, quality by design. Quality should be built into the scientific and operational design and conduct of the clinical trial. It is favorably abbreviated as QBD, quality by design. I'll give you some clinical examples to understand what exactly is quality by design. Find factors critical to quality. Factors critical to quality of the trial should be identified, which is fundamental for the protection of the participants, and reliability and interpretability of the trial results and decisions made on those trial results. Please note, whatever you publish, somebody will analyze them and it will become a meta-analysis or systematic review. In future, the same may turn into policy. If your publication is based on falsehood or some misconduct, then it will be built on a false criterion. Hence, the reliability and interpretability has to be perfect. And whenever you feel there can be some deviation from the GCP, for example, to give an example, the patients, you advise them to take probably 3 times a day medication, which they forget, and you realize the compliance is hardly 60 to 70%. Probably you can have an SMS-based adherence reminders to increase compliance. This can be done very much by technology. Mobile messages can be sent. So strategies should be implemented to avoid, detect, and address serious non-compliance with the GCP. See, what we do whenever you are supposed to write protocol, there is a tendency to simplify or copy or modify the protocol of the most recent similar trial. If you've already done it, you tend to do it. So this approach probably has to be slashed. Start each protocol from scratch. This is called clean slate approach. Ask these questions to yourself. Why do we need this component? Can we do this in an easier way? What are the drivers of this component? Can we get this information elsewhere? Answer these questions and start writing the protocol. Next is risk proportionality. Clinical trial processes, measures, and approaches should be implemented in a way that is proportionate to the risks to the participants and importance of the data collected. I told you about the 2 types of trial. If the risk is more, you should be more vigilant. I'm not saying if the risk is less, you don't have to worry, definitely, but you don't have to be so vigilant like in a high-risk clinical trial. Risk to critical to quality factors should be managed prospectively and adjusted when new or unanticipated issues arise when the trial has begun. This is called dynamic risk adjustment, and the sponsor has a major role here. And make the clinical trial processes simple. Avoid unnecessary complexity. Don't make it so complex that it becomes difficult for interpretation or procedures or data collection, which leads to errors. Have a look at this scenario. Comparison of 2 widely used antihypertensive, both are standard of care. So here the risks are similar to routine clinical care. So minimum additional burden, already both are proven. So here you can have a simplified consent process, have a short consent form, limited source data verification, only primary outcome, they can be monitored, and follow-up visits aligned with the usual care. No need to have a very frequent visits, no additional visits. Have a look at this scenario. Early phase oncology trial of a new small first-in-human molecule with unknown toxicity profile. So here the risk is high because unknown adverse effect, narrow therapeutic window. And in this, you have to have a proportionate approach. Have intensive safety labs, daily monitoring during the first cycle, and frequent A reporting windows, for example, 24-hour reporting requirements, full source data verification for safety data, and monitor the first dose inpatient. Inpatient monitoring for the first dose has to be done. Probably you can employ these techniques as a proportionate approach. Have a look at this. Study of inhaled corticosteroid for asthma includes weekly clinic visits. The participants report difficulty attending, leading to dropouts. They say we cannot come every week, hence the dropout rates are high. So what you can do, convert some visits into virtual, shift symptom diary to a simple mobile app, or reduce pyrometry testing to baseline and primary endpoint visits. So this maintains a scientific validity without unnecessary burden. The dropout should not be high. These are some critical to quality factors. For example, endpoint measurement. See, a phase 3 oncology trial identifies tumor size measurement as a critical to quality factor. To ensure accuracy, imaging protocols are standardized across all sites. Midway, a new imaging software update introduces variability. Now the sponsor has to dynamically adjust by retraining staff, validate the updated system, and maintain endpoint integrity. If the tumor size measurement is not reliable, then where is the endpoint measurement? One more example. In a cardiovascular trial, timely ECG reporting is critical. So continuous monitoring detects delays in ECG uploads from a remote site. They could not send, they could not upload for a certain reason. Now, later, when the whole thing came, there were some issues. There was some probably QT prolongation. Now, this has got a direct bearing on participant safety monitoring. So CRO has to implement automated alerts and telehealth follow-ups to mitigate the risk and ensure participant safety. So these are some critical to quality factors which has to be looked into during conduct of the clinical trial. Clinical trial should be described in a clear, concise, and operationally feasible protocol. And a well-designed clinical trial protocol is fundamental to the protection of the participants and generation of reliable results. Clinical trial should generate reliable results. I told you this will convert into systematic review meta-analysis, which in turn will convert into policy and transparency in the clinical trial registration on a publicly accessible and recognized databases. In India, we have CTRA. I'm sure somebody will speak on this. This is mandatory now. Public posting of the clinical trial results also. Roles and responsibilities in clinical trial should be clear and documented appropriately. Delegation log has to be maintained. Sponsor cannot do everything. He will transfer many of the responsibility to CRO, and investigator also will delegate many of his responsibility to his team members. However, they retain the overall responsibility. Sponsor is the overall responsible person. At the site, PI is the overall responsible person. So agreement should be in place. It should clearly define who will do what. The last principle, it talks about the IP standards. Okay, this has to be manufactured as per GMP, etc. A lot of transport and storage, etc., and destruction later, return, all these things are mentioned about IP in this principle. Indian GCP guidelines are waiting for updation and gazetting. These are the differences between GCP and Indian GCP. I'm sorry for the paucity of time. Each explanation I will not be able to do. Now let us have a quick look at the clinical trial protocol. Protocol is the backbone for a clinical trial. First is a title page with the full title of the clinical study. It has to have a study number, version number with the date, investigation new drug name, the number, complete name and address of the sponsor, CRO, and the list of investigators. Ethics committee will look whether your name is included in the list of investigators. If it's not there, then probably there will be queries. name of the clinical laboratories where the lab testing will be done. Then you have to give background and introduction, give the details of preclinical experience, clinical experience, give the study rationale, specify the primary and secondary objective, which are logical relation to study design. All should align: the title, study design, objective, inclusion, exclusion criteria. They should speak the same language. They should align with each other. Study design can be double-blind, multi-center, placebo-controlled, etc. Number of study subjects, study number assignment. Okay, all these things have to be specified. Study design can have a flow chart and explain the procedures and describe why this design is adopted. Give justification for that study design. Next is study population, number of subjects to be enrolled, sample size and the sample size estimation, nature of the subject population required, inclusion, exclusion criteria, specify those, plans, procedures and methods of assessment. And for the study conduct, what all things will be done, like history, examination, labs, etc. And describe each visit as visit 1, visit 2, what are you going to do in that visit. And you can have a table also in this regard. What are you going to do with the discontinued subjects? What are the circumstances for subject withdrawal, dropouts, and how you will manage them? How will you manage protocol waivers? Of course, waivers, I don't think so is applicable today. Now waivers, nobody, no sponsor gives waivers these days. What is the study treatment, dosing schedule, supplies, dose modification criteria, interactions possible, concomitant, allowed therapies, blinding procedures, if any. If it requires unblinding, what is the procedure? Everything has to be described in detail. Adverse event, describe how you will handle the adverse events. Ethical considerations is a big section in the protocol. And if this is not written properly, ethics committee will raise objections. You have to describe ethical considerations under those headings. And study monitoring and supervision. Lastly, the investigational product management. What is IP? What is the dosing? What is the treatment, storage conditions, etc. Lastly, the data analysis undertaking by the investigator and the various appendices like synopsis, informed consent documents, case report forms, summary of the relevant preclinical safety information, etc. Next is investigator's brochure. Investigator's brochure is not about the investigator, his CV, his accolades, his medals, etc. It is a central referral document in any clinical trial. It compiles all clinical and non-clinical data on IP that are relevant to this study in humans. It provides a scientific rationale for the trial. It guides the investigator on dosing, route, frequency, and safety monitoring. It ensures that the investigator understands the risk-benefit profile. And this is the document that helps you in deciding causality in case of there is any AE or SAs. So I would say this is the scientific backbone in a clinical trial. So this is the table of contents and what should be there in an investigator's brochure. I won't be able to explain. Have a look at it for 2-3 seconds. All the non-clinical studies, pharmacology, non-clinical pharmacology, non-clinical toxicology, pharmacokinetics, toxicokinetics, metabolism, species, everything has to be mentioned. What toxicity testing was done and which species, all the details. Next, if it is phase 2 or 3 trials, effect in humans, human pharmacokinetics, human metabolism, safety and efficacy in humans. This has to be explained. Summary of the data and guidance for the investigator. So provide investigator with a clear understanding of possible risks and ADRs and specific tests, observations, precautions that may be needed for a clinical trial. If there is causality assessment that has to be done during evaluation of an assay, this is the document, this is the most helpful, not most helpful, this is the document which will help you in deciding causality. A well-constructed investigator's brochure enables consistent training across trial sites, ensures evidence-based investigator decision-making, supports ethical conduct and informed consent quality, serves as a basis for protocol justification. And it serves as a both scientific document and risk mitigation tool. Lastly, the essential records for the conduct of the clinical trial. If you see the R2 version, it was essential documents. Now the terminology has changed. It is essential records now. Essential records include any documentation or data necessary to verify how the trial was designed, conducted, and analyzed. So R3 stresses a principle-based flexible approach rather than a rigid checklist. So now what is essential depends on trial design, methodology, risk level, and regulatory relevance. Records must be identifiable, version controlled, include authors, reviewers, approvers, dates, and signatures. Whether it is electronic or physical, it is immaterial, doesn't make any difference. All must be stored in what is called as trial master file or TMF and investigator side file ISF with clear documentation of each record is located. And this applies to both electronic and paper records. Before trial initiation, these are the essential records that should be in place: protocol, IB, informed consent, etc. During the trial, these are the essential records that should be in place. This is just a summary of the records. Actually, it is a big section in the R3. And after the trial completion, these are the documents. So R3 emphasizes a risk-based proportionate documentation. It reinforces quality by design and clear responsibility sharing between the sponsor and the investigator, and recognizes modern and electronic data sources, ensuring they meet the standards for reliability, integrity, and security. Thank you, NPT, for giving me an opportunity. And this is the summary of whatever I had to share today under overview of GCP. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your excellent presentation. The session was extremely informative and highly beneficial for all of us. Now the floor is open for discussion. Any question, any query?
China madam, one question is in chat box. You can take it.
Okay.
Is it visible for you?
Um,
Okay, I will read it.
okay.
In our Indian regulatory framework under NDCTR 2019, how should the PI operationally balance ethics committee approval, CDSCO regulatory oversight, and sponsor-driven protocol? Ashok.
Yeah, and the sponsor-driven protocol changes that ensure that the patient safety remains a primary driver without affecting or delaying trial contact. Yeah, this has to be adhered to. So you have to look into the ethical aspects, you have to look into the regulatory aspects. All requirements have to be met with. And experience and training will teach you how to go ahead with this. Definitely, absolutely, there is no scope for any compromise. No scope for compromise. Ethics committee always acts as a watchdog, and there is no leverage given anywhere. So a reporting has to be done. At the same time, timely conduct of the clinical trial is also mandatory. You can't escape from this. You have to do it. Can a statistician become PI in public surveys, and the minimum qualification required? Statistician can become the PI. No, Dakle sir, any.
According to, go ahead, somebody is talking. According to ICS guidelines, if the person is having education, training,
and experience in the relevant field,
then
yes.
he can go ahead with the PI, otherwise not.
Depend on what is the public, what is the protocol in that way. If it involves some patient care and if it involves that, I doubt statistician.
Sir, statistician need to be having the according qualification, and if apart from the MBBS or say MD qualification, he is having a statistician degree, I feel then he can be eligible.
True.
But without
Ashok.
any medical degree, or he is having only a statistics degree, it is very difficult to say that he can be a investigator.
True, sir.
Ashok,
Correct.
one last question. Trials on nutraceutical, does it require DCGI approval?
No, nutraceuticals, they don't come under modern medicine unless there are at least 4 APIs, phytoconstituents identified. It doesn't qualify for modern medicine. Unless it belongs to modern medicine, it doesn't come under NDCT. So all the Ayurvedic products or homeopathy or Siddha or nutraceuticals, they don't come under the purview of NDCT as of now.
Thank you, Ashok. Rest of the question you can go ahead with the chat box.
I'll
Yes?
do the chat box. Yes, sir.
So we will go ahead with the next one. Now I request Dr. Pramod sir to introduce today's second speaker, Dr. Arshia Sehgal madam. Over to Dr. Pramod.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Ganesh Dakle sir, for kind introduction. So, good afternoon, everyone. At the outset, I sincerely thanks to the National Association of Pharmacology and Therapeutics for giving me this opportunity. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the 5th National Workshop on Good Clinical Research Practice 2026. In the first session, we had an insightful overview of good clinical practice, ICH GCP E6 Revision 3 as in context to the Indian perspective, clinical trial protocols with a very lucid example by Dr. Professor Ashok Shenoy sir, along with blue code. All the important things were coded in a blue font. So thank you so much, sir. That session that session had a strong foundation for understanding the regulatory and documentation aspects of clinical trial. Now we move to the next important topic: responsibility of investigators, sponsors, and monitors in clinical trials, which is not only academically relevant but also ethically foundational to the conduct of clinical research. We are privileged to have with us today Dr. Arshia Sehgal madam, who will enlighten us on this crucial subject. Madam is currently working as a medical advisor in the vaccines division at Pfizer. She has more than 10 years of research experience along with 3 years of industry experience. She has worked as a fellow at Tata Memorial Center, Mumbai, and as a medical advisor with MSD Pharmaceuticals India. She has published more than 30 research publications in national and international journals and has contributed 4 chapters to research and MBBS curriculum books. She is credited with authoring the first geriatric guidelines in India. She has been a speaker and panelist at various national oncology conferences, workshops, and research methodology programs. She is also a life member of IPS and NPT. With these words, I formally invite Dr. Arshia Sehgal madam to deliver her lecture. Thank you. Over to you, madam.
Thank you, Dr. Pramod, for such a kind introduction. First of all, I would like to thank National Association of Pharmacology and Therapeutics for giving me this opportunity, especially Dr. Kamal sir, for having faith in me and giving me this opportunity. And I'm also thankful to Dr. Dakle sir as well for giving me this platform to share my views. And without any further delay, I will share my screen. Please just let me know that my screen is visible and I am fully audible.
Yes, madam. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope my screen
Yes,
is moving as well, right? Clearly.
Yes.
Yes. So thank you. Good evening for everyone. So Dr. Shinoy has very comprehensively given an overview of the GCP, the protocol, and the investigator brochure. So I will now take further and we will delve deeper into the role of sponsor, investigator, and monitors in the clinical trial. So if we see the clinical trial succeed not because of protocols alone, but because of people who execute them responsibly. And so there are three pillars of the clinical trial who execute them. So one is investigator, sponsor, and monitors. So they all. So in this session, we will learn that how these three pillars they interlock with each other, and they develop and they all work for the participants or the patient safety, scientific integrity, and also scientific integrity and the credibility of the data. So this slide gives you the full ecosystem of the stakeholders and the relationships of the clinical trial. So here if we see subject, which is the center of everyone's part, subject, right? So everyone is working for the patient safety at the end, and we are working for the scientific integrity and for the data credibility. So investigator takes care of the subject, sponsor and the monitors they overlook, and the ethics committee and the regulatory authority, they are the external authorities which are keeping the checks on it. So we will first delve deeper into the investigator. So what we mean by investigator? So according to the ICH, so investigator is a person who is responsible for the conduct of the clinical trial, including the trial participants for whom that person has responsibility during the conduct of the trial. And if a trial is conducted by a team of individuals, the investigator is the responsible leader of the team and may be called the principal investigator. And similarly, the WHO also defines the investigator that who leads and manages the clinical study, being responsible for its design, implementation, supervision, and compliance with the established ethical and scientific principles. So basically, he is the leader of the trial at the site level, scientifically, ethically, and operationally. Even when tasks are delegated, accountability is never delegated. And if we see the roles and responsibilities of the investigator, so we will divide it into four buckets. So one first is about the qualification and the resources. Then comes the study oversight and the conduct. Third is the participant safety and the data governance. And fourth is the ethics and regulatory interface. And then we will discuss each bucket one by one. So first of all, we will take the qualification and the resources. So this is a very busy slide. So what we are looking for it and overview, one liner if we have to say. So investigator is a custodian of the participants' rights, safety and well-being, protocol compliance, accurate documentation, timely safety reporting, and supervision of the team. So these are not the administrative tasks. These are our ethical obligations, and scientific validity depends on them. So if we have to maintain the data credibility and if we have to maintain the scientific integrity, and as we know, these are our ethical obligations. So for that, so qualification and training is must. So the investigator must be qualified by the education, training, and experience to assume the responsibility for the trial, as we were discussing in our Q&A session also. Provides the evidence of the qualifications, and they should be able to demonstrate the potential to recruit the eligible participants within the agreed time frame and ensure the sufficient time and qualified personnel and adequate facilities for the safe conduct of the trial. So it's not that the center is not equipped well and one can conduct a trial. So facilities need to be at par. All the facilities need to be there. So that is a separate topic which will take huge time. I just wanted to say that the in sufficient time and the adequate facilities are must for the safe conduct of the trial. And next is the study of the oversight and the conduct. So when we are saying that now the investigator is qualified, now the investigator has to see the study and he has to conduct the study. So he will definitely delegate the responsibilities. So they may delegate activities, but ultimately the responsibility and oversight of the delegates lies with the investigator. Investigator has to ensure that delegates are trained in the protocol and investigational product. So what we mean by investigational product, that is a new product that is still not approved. So that if also comes, so investigator has to make sure that his team is trained in that protocol and is able to handle that product. He has to maintain a documented record of delegated activities. He allows the audits and the monitoring by the sponsor and regulatory authorities. And next is he has to be compliant with the protocol. So he has to sign the protocol and alternative contracts with the sponsor, record and explain the significant deviations from the protocol, implement the measures to prevent the recurrences, modify the protocol only in case of immediate danger to the participants, and report it to the sponsor and IRB as soon as possible. So at the end, delegation is allowed, but oversight is mandatory for the investigator. And if we see two more domains here that comes under the study oversight, that is randomization and unblinding procedures, and fourth is management of product in investigation. So in randomization, so now team is fully equipped, we have adequate facilities, team is trained. So the investigator has to follow the randomization procedures according to the protocol. He has to ensure that the treatment code can be broken in the emergency situations if needed, and he has to document any premature unmasking. And in management of product in the investigation, he has to correctly manage, store, record, and dispose of the investigational product. He may delegate the management of the investigational product to pharmacist. He has to maintain the detailed records of the product batches, and he has to ensure it is stored and used according to the sponsor's specifications. And also, if we see that other third bucket, which is the participants' safety and the data governance. So one is definitely the informed consent, which is the first thing which need to be taken from the patient or from the participant in the clinical trial. So that has to comply with the GCP and applicable regulations. The language in the informed consent has to be clear and concise, and investigator has to obtain the IRB IEC approval before using any consent forms, and allow electronic methods where appropriate and approved by IRB, and obtain the consent from the legal representative when applicable and approved by IRB, and inform the participant and obtain their consent if feasible. He has to allow participants to withdraw without penalty and ensure the proper handling of their data. So this is a very important thing for ensuring the participant safety. And this is the area where the maximum, I would say, the deviations occur, because sometimes if we see in the real world also, informed consent is, so when regular audits are there, so we will see that consents are signed, everything is there, everything is put into place, CRFs are all maintained, but the consent is signed after the procedure, so which is a major deviation. So one has to make sure that informed consent has to be taken before the procedure. That is must. So never take it very lightly, and there is a separate session for it. So informed consent is a process, it is not a signature, and it must happen before any study procedure. Next is medical care and safety reporting, because investigator has to if the patient is being admitted for 1 day or 2 days, because if the patient has to give some blood samples or some something like that. So then for the medical care and safety reporting is also in hands of the investigator. He has to ensure that a qualified physician is in charge of the medical care of participants, ensure there is adequate medical care for the study related adverse events, immediately report the serious adverse events to the sponsor with an assessment of causality, and if required, provide the additional reports such as autopsies in the event of death. Next is completion of participation in the study and maintenance and the management of records and data. So for the completion of participants in the study, one has to document that what was the reason for the withdrawal, respecting the participant decision, and evaluate whether there are ways to minimize the withdrawal without unduly influencing the participant, and inform the participants about the results of the study and the treatment received if they request it. And for the management of records and the data, ensure that data is accurate, complete, and well documented, and is consistent with the source records. Any corrections must be traceable without altering the original record. Implement the data privacy and security measures in accordance with applicable regulations. Retain the records as required by regulatory requirements and until authorized by the sponsor. So withdrawals should be respected, documented, and never caused. Corrections should never obscure the original entry. Remember, if it isn't documented, it didn't happen. Next, fourth bucket was ethics and regulatory interface. So investigator has to maintain a communication with the ethics committee, that is IRB or IEC. So he has to obtain the documented approval before starting the study, inform the IRB or IEC of the relevant modifications or new findings, submit the study progress reports as required. Second is premature termination or suspension. So notify the participants and provide appropriate medical follow-up. Inform the sponsor, IRB, and regulatory authorities with a detailed explanation in case there is a premature termination. And for the final reports and the communication has to be maintained by the investigator. He has to inform the institution and IRB, IEC about the results of the study, submit the required reports to the regulatory authorities, facilitate the access to records for audits, monitoring, or regulatory inspections. So ethics committee is not a hurdle, it's a partner. So no study starts without its approval, no change happens without notification, and no study ends without reporting results. And in case of premature termination, transparency is critical. Participants, sponsors, ethics committee, regulators, they must be informed. So this was about the investigator's role. And now comes the role of a sponsor. So the sponsor can be an individual, it can be a company, institution, or organization that takes the responsibility for the initiation, management, and arrangement of the financing of the clinical trials. And basically the role of the sponsor is that it leads the planning, financing, supervision of the study, ensuring that there is a compliance with the protocol. At the end, three things: safety of the participants, data integrity is maintained throughout the selection and the monitoring of the clinical sites, risk management and pharmacovigilance when applicable, and regulatory compliance. So for the sponsor, there are 6 buckets now. So one is strategic planning and trial framework. Next is resource financing. Third is investigator and authority interface. Fourth is oversight, quality and risk governance, safety data and documentation. And last is the investigational product management. So if we go into the strategic planning and trial framework, because everything starts with the planning first, that how the trial is going to be, what should be the quality, what will be the study design, and where there is an unmet need. So that planning is done by the sponsor. So the sponsor ensures the quality in the study design, securing the data, ensuring that sufficient data exists on the investigational product before exposing it to human studies. He has to identify and mitigate risk in critical quality factors, include the perspectives from healthcare professionals and patients in protocol development, and ensure there is operational viability of the study. So it's not that there is a good idea in our mind and the sponsor thinks that, okay, I can now put a trial. So one has to take the inputs from the healthcare professionals, because they are at the first end of the part of the patient. So they know best that what will work and what will not work. So they help, their inputs are also must for the protocol development. And that means that sponsor has to ensure that the trial, whichever is designed, is viable to be operated. So otherwise it will be just on papers and it will not be operational, it will not work in the real world setting. Next is that avoid the complex procedures and unnecessarily burden on the participants and researchers. Next is proportional approach to the risk. So sponsor is responsible for implementing the risk proportionate approaches for ensuring the safety of the rights and the well-being of the participants. Second is definitely the resources, finances, and agreements are all maintained by the sponsor. He has to ensure the availability of the resources, assign the study activities or tasks in structured way before they begin. So all the strategic planning part comes with the sponsor. They employ the qualified personnel in specific functions, and they rely on medical experts to resolve the medical issues related to the study. So investigator is a leader at the site and he has to resolve all the medical issues, but sponsor maintains the oversight of it. Next is the resources, financing and agreements. So the the two more other domains in it is that insurance, indemnity, and compensation also. So sponsors are responsible for providing any insurance or legal or financial coverage in case of claims, or if there is any compensation also, they establish all those compensation policies in case there is an event in the study related injuries. So that part is always handled by the sponsor. And all the financing and agreement part is also ensured by the sponsor, that they have to document all the financial aspects in agreement. They have to formalize the agreements with the researchers and ensure the compliance with the protocol and regulation, and maintain the oversight and responsibility for the outsource activities. And also for the now sponsor has other responsibility, that he also has to maintain the interface, regular interface with the investigator and authorities, because investigator is going to work at the site. So he selects the qualified researchers, institutions with the adequate resources, and ensure that researchers receive the necessary protocol and information. They notify the regulatory authority and ethics committee about the study approval and the reviews. They have to maintain the oversight, quality, and risk awareness as well. So there are 4 domains in it, in the oversight, quality, and risk awareness. So one is the study supervision, and next is quality and risk management. For the study supervision, they have to ensure that study and data generation are of sufficient quality, define criteria for significant deviations, implement monitoring and control measures proportional to the risk, escalate and manage issues appropriately and in timely manner, establish an independent data monitoring committee to assess the safety and efficacy, and implement a risk-based quality system, identify the risk before and during the study, implement the measures to minimize the significant risk. So this all responsibility is with the sponsors. They have to document and communicate the identified risk, review the quality controls, make adjustments as necessary, as because every site has different demands, and every site has their own style of operations. So sponsor has to be flexible and has to work accordingly. Report the quality issues and corrective actions taken in the final trial report. So it is risk-based quality management is central. So not all data carry equal risk. So this has to be proportionate and timely. Next is the quality assurance and control. Next is regulatory compliance and non-compliance management. So implement the audits proportional to the risk of the study to assess the compliance with the protocol and regulations. Ensure the ongoing monitoring to protect the participants and validate data quality. Next is establish the monitoring plans tailored to trial risk. Identify and correct the non-compliances with corrective and preventive actions. Notify authorities in case of serious breaches affecting the security or reliability of the data. Consider terminating a researcher's or vendor's participation in cases of persistent non-compliance. So audits and monitoring, they protect the participants and data integrity. So persistent non-compliance, it must be addressed decisively, even if that means site or vendor termination. So next is safety. Next role is also about the safety, data, and the documentation. So they have to, there are 4 domains further in it. So that is the safety assessment and reporting, data and records management. So they have to continually evaluate the safety of the investigational product. They have to analyze and report the unexpected serious adverse reactions to regulatory authorities, take immediate actions in event of unexpected risk to the participant. They have to ensure the confidentiality, apply the quality control, specify the data capture and storage in the protocol and related documents, allow justified and documented corrections, protect data from unauthorized access and alteration, ensure the data retention and access, and ensure the traceability and quality of the statistical analysis. And also they have to report, and final documentation is also lies with the sponsor. So they have to notify the investigators and authorities in case of trial suspension, prepare and submit the trial reports as per regulatory requirements, make public the results of the trial in accordance with the applicable regulations. And last but not the least, the investigational product management. If the product is unapproved, then this role also lies with the sponsor. So they have to keep the researcher's brochure updated with the relevant information, ensure there is a compliance with the good manufacturing practices and proper labeling, ensure product availability and proper handling at research sites. So now we have covered the 2 pillars, basically investigator and sponsor, and the third pillar is the monitor. So monitors, they act of the act of basically overseeing the progress of the clinical trial, and they ensure that it is conducted, recorded and reported in accordance with the protocol, standard operating procedures and GCP and applicable regulatory requirement. So the monitor is a person, he has a direct access to the patient's medical records, because they verify that the data or the procedure acting within the constraints of regulatory requirement to maintain the confidentiality of the subject's identities and sponsors proprietary information. So they have to verify there is a true existence of the information collected. Now investigator has collected, sponsor is overseeing all the activities. Now monitor has to see that actually the data has been collected. They did it, so they work with that the data whichever it is collected, so they have to verify it, and that it is accurate, and if there is any discrepancy they have to escalate it to the higher authorities. So it must be decided in advance and set out in the protocol that what information is to be checked against the source documents and what exactly these documents are, especially now that there are so many records which are computerized. It is essential to agree before the trial starts what is to be considered the source documentation, what procedures are acceptable, and what precisely the monitor has to do to verify the information. And basically the purpose of monitoring is that they ensure the rights and well-being of the participants are protected, the reported trial data is accurate, complete and verifiable, conduct of the trial is in compliance with the currently approved protocol with GCP and all the regulatory requirements, to check that the informed consent has been signed and dated by the patient before any procedure. They check all the screened patients meet exclusive criteria to verify the documentation, clinical charts, and all the source documents to check criteria for eligibility and endpoints. And they verify that all the necessary material is present and that drugs and samples are stored to check the drug accountability is up to date. So standardization, verification of certain procedures, randomization, reporting of adverse events, management, they have to ensure that the data is of adequate quality. They check the clinical charts, source documents, and those checks are always the random checks, so that to cross check the consistency of the source data versus the case report forms, so that all the adverse events and so serious adverse events are being documented and reported properly. And they have to check the investigator's file to check premature interruption, to check the modification in the study drug administration, to check all the concomitant diseases and medications are being reported into CRF. So basically they check everything, whatever is being done on the on the investigator side. So the key takeaways is that these are the sponsor, investigator, and monitor. They are the three distinct but interdependent pillars. And investigator is the leader of trial conduct at the site level. So core responsibilities lies the protect participant rights, safety, well-being, ensure protocol compliance, maintain data integrity, and report any adverse events and deviations. And informed consent is a process, not a form. Late consent is a major ethical and regulatory finding, even if the science is unaffected. And sponsor is a system owner and responsible for the design and the risk assessment, financing, insurance, compensation, safety surveillance, and regulatory reporting, and quality systems and oversight. The monitor role is verification, not policing. So the monitor role is basically that it ensures the participants protection, data accuracy, and traceability and compliance with the protocol and GCP. And ethics and regulatory committees, they are not obstacles, but they are the safeguards. So protocol changes, safety signals, and trial closures, they all require formal notification. So before going further, I would like that all the participants who are attending this session, so please, like if we can just have some case discussions, and if you can just put up the answers, whatever you feel is right, like A, B, C, or D in the chat box, so that we can have a good discussion and we can understand whether I'm able to give a right message to everyone. So it will be great. So this question is like, any serious adverse event has occurred at one site and investigator has informed the sponsor with the timelines. The question arises regarding regulatory reporting and ensuring the appropriate follow-up across all sites. So who is responsible? The investigator alone, the monitor, the sponsor for safety assessment and reporting regulatory compliance and ensuring appropriate actions across participating sites, ethics committee as they approve the protocol. Okay.
You can answer in the chat box also.
Yes, yes. Yes, I think everyone is C, B. Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. Great. Yeah. So
you can go ahead.
Yes. So yes. I don't know why my screen is. Yes. So yes, the correct answer is C. The sponsor for the safety assessment and reporting the regulatory compliance and ensuring the appropriate actions across the participating sites. So second case is about the participant arrives for screening and the team is ready to perform the first study related procedure. The consent form is available but has not yet been signed and dated. What should the investigator ensure happens before any study procedure? So please. Great. Interesting. Yes. So yes, you're right. Yes, the correct answer is C, that it has to be obtained before any procedure related to trial. Next is a monitor is preparing the monitoring plan and wants to confirm what should be verified against the source documents versus what can be accepted from the CRF. What is the correct approach described in the deck? Like verify every single CRF against source of every object irrespective of risk, decide in advance and set out in protocol what information is to be checked against source documents, what exactly these documents are, agree before the trial starts, what is to be considered, C's allow each side to define source differently to reduce the operational burden, and only verify the endpoints, do not review the informed consent and eligibility documentation. Yeah, great. Yes. So the correct answer is B, because it has to be decided in advance that what exactly is going to be checked and what will be the source documents. So with this, I will say thank you so much. Thank you, NPT, and all the participants for their active participation. And I'm please let me know like if there are any queries. I'll be more than happy.
Pramod, you can go ahead. There is one question.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you so much, ma'am, for in-depth discussion of each role and responsibility of investigators, sponsor, and monitors. So, from your deliberation, I can say that the investigators are actually the heart and hands for a clinical trial. This monitors are the eyes and ears to the sponsors, and sponsors are the brain or the fund and funding agency for the this any clinical trials. Okay. Sometimes these sponsors may delegate their duty to the contract research organizations here, that is CRO. So thank you so much, ma'am, for with your case discussion to understand the responsibility obligations of these three pillars of a clinical trial, that is the sponsors, monitors, and investigators. So the session now is open for question discussion. So I can't see any questions now. They are appreciating,
Pramod,
only appreciating.
there is one question.
Yeah,
I will ask
sir.
the one question. It is in the chat box. Does indemnity is taken care completely by sponsor in India? If yes, then to what extent?
So the insurance is always taken care by the sponsor, and to what extent it depends on each and every organization, that what is the budget of their what is the budget of that trial which they are going to invest in. So accordingly, sponsor has its own rules and policies that they decide the compensation, although they are always in comply with the regulatory authorities, that whatever it is written in the ICH, so they comply with that. But the extent that how much where it can, so they always do it according to the according, each and every organization has its own rules and policies.
Extend to that, the question was, does indemnity is taken care of by the sponsor? The answer given by is absolutely correct. In addition to that, there is an agreement between sponsor and the PI with the institute also. And in that,
Yes.
they have written what are the various responsibilities of individuals. Say, for example, sponsor, then principal investigator, and the institute. Accordingly, indemnity is mainly taken care of by the sponsor. In case of any serious adverse injury or adverse events, then again, as mentioned by madam, insurance plays very important role, and therefore in 100% of clinical trials without insurance, even ethics committee also is not going to go ahead with the final approval.
Yes, sir.
I think that is okay for the response.
Yes, sir.
Over to Pramod.
Next question is, sir, is monitor nominated by sponsors? And similar question is again there. You can see what is the role of a sponsor in a clinical, what is the role of a sponsor in a clinical trial? I think this question should not be asked after this session.
Okay.
And one question is related to who should be a monitor. I just saw who should be a monitor. Who
He may be wanting the what is the qualification of to
monitor.
become the monitor.
Monitor.
Simple.
Who decides who will be monitor?
So
By
you
question by Jagminder Kaur.
So usually the monitor is always usually appointed through investigators only, because they have to work closely with them. So usually sponsors very rarely they get into the sponsors, because the major role is definitely because they have to work closely with the investigator. So investigator in most of the cases, they take they appoint the sponsor. And what are the qualifications? Usually that is not a, like, sometimes it can be any medical qualification, usually the sponsors, but there is not a specific criteria that this has to be matched to be a monitor in a clinical trial. So I've seen many in my practice, like I've seen many pharmds also, B farms also, sometimes the people who have done their BScs also. So I've seen them also, even, but with the, definitely with the good experience in the clinical trials, because not just getting a degree will not qualify you for being a sponsor, for being a monitor. The person has to be trained and skilled also to actually verify it. He has to understand the nuances of the clinical trial, so that investigators usually play a major role there.
Absolutely correct. Training and experience plays very important role, and it is mostly the appointment is done by the sponsor. Maybe sometimes in consensus with the investigator, primary role is played by the sponsor.
Yes, sir.
Expert in the field may be monitor, any expert in the field. So
Yeah.
pharmacologist in clinical trial or pharm group of people. So experts in the field may monitor.
So if there are no questions, we can conclude. So I am very
Yes.
thankful to all office bearers of the NPT for allowing us to conduct this workshop, as well as both the speakers, Dr. Shenoy sir, as well as Dr. Sehgal madam, for their excellent presentation, and moderators Dr. Sarkar madam and Pramod sir for their time specific moderation. Lastly, my sincere thanks to all participants for their active participation and patience hearing. If you want more material on the good clinical practice, we recommend that you can go ahead with the book written by myself, Dr. Kamal sir and Dr. Kaidkar madam. It is available on Amazon also, and the title of the book is Essentials of Good Clinical Practice. So with this, I declare that today's session is over, and we will meet again on the next Thursday, that is on 12th March at 3 p.m. Thank you all. Thank you all
Thank you, sir.
moderators as well
Thank
as
you, sir.
the speakers. So we will go ahead with one small photo. Yes. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Dr. Arshia. Thank you, Dr. Manji.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
As this
We
was
are,
our first, we are 5 minutes late. From the next
yeah.
week, we can
No
go
issue,
ahead.
but sir, it is excellently conducted, and congratulations again. You have become again the largest organizer of the GCP training in the country. 5th National GCP workshop. More than 810 participants, and people were telling us that so many participants you are getting through payment. Even people are when inviting participant without any fee, they even don't gather there. It is the popularity of NPT, popularity of our president, Dr. Ganesh Dakle, who is very hardworking person, and supported by our General Secretary, Dr. P.K. Sharma sir. Thank you all the participants. Please stay in touch, and please keep on logging your dashboard. We have exclusively created this workshop onward. For any query and any contact, feel free to contact us. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. It's a teamwork. Thank you, Ashok. Thank you, Pramod.
Sir.
Thank you,
Thank
madam.
you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Kamal.
much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Shilpa madam, you can log out.